You know, the great thing about comedy is even when it sucks, it can still be pretty goddamn entertaining. Welcome, everybody, once again. Back in the 420 studios with the 420 report. I know it's a little bit later than what I usually go live here on my live fake talk show that I throw down every day, 4:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, or as close as possible. Hit me up with a question or a comment, or wherever you're watching from, leave that in the show when the Jared Dog Comedy Roadshow is coming to your area very soon. While the audience builds, let me go over the upcoming show dates. This weekend, I travel all the way back up to the Mitten. That's right. Home away from home, the great state of Michigan. Tonight I have a show in Dryden, Michigan at the Pines House Bar and Cafe. This Saturday night, I go up to Alpena, Michigan for a show at the world famous Joe's Bar. Did a show there last January. We packed them in. This time we're going to be doing the show hopefully outdoors if the weather cooperates. And those are always fun for me because you never know what to expect. You know, I talked about this a little bit yesterday on the video I did. You do these comedy nights outdoors, comedy under the stars. It's not always the perfect conditions for live comedy, but for me, that is what makes it interesting, exciting, and fun. Expect the unexpected, you know. Whatever happens during the show that's completely unpredictable, spontaneous, and in the moment, I think that's what creates the best comedy, even when it sucks. Hence the title of today's video, How to Never See a Bad Comedian. Hey, what's up, Kevin, Mason, Gary? We got a lot of comedians joining. Watching right now. They want to know what Jared Dog's thought is on how to never see a bad comedian. I think I pretty much only have an audience of comedians or comic performers right now. And like I started off, the cool thing about comedy is even when it sucks, it can still be pretty damn good. Here's the trick. Here's the trick. When you are the performer, first of all, you can't take yourself too seriously, man. You know, like even I find myself falling into this fucking trap. Hey, Happy! Good to see you here, man. Talk about somebody who knows how to get it done on the streets, no matter what the conditions are, inclement weather or otherwise, rain, shine, sleet, or snow, there will be a gunfight show. Am I right, sir? You still got to get out there and get it done. Comedians, stand-up comics, they will, lots of times we have the ideal conditions at our disposal. You know, the crowd is seated right up front, not always, but the crowd is typically seated real close to the stage. You've got great audio going on. You've got all the basic elements at play. And by the way, if it's a club that doesn't have those things going on, get your heads out of your asses. There are just very few fundamental things that no matter where you are or what type of club you run, get the sound right. You know, a microphone, look at this. I got a cheap piece of shit microphone I do these Facebook live videos with, and this fucker is a hell of a lot better than some of these microphones I see cutting in and out all the time I go to some of the clubs. All right? A lot of times, these clubs, it's like the sound and the lights and the staging and the comfort level of the audience, that's like the last damn thing on their list. They're all worried about things that they shouldn't be worried about. One thing you can get right no matter what fucking bar you're in or what venue you're at or what town you live in is the damn microphone. They overthink this shit too much. They go out and they try to get like some wireless mic. Oh, we thought maybe the comedians would want to walk around or something. Come on, man. We stay up on the stage. We pace around. Never mind the wireless mic. We don't need it. Get a decent corded microphone. You can get the filet mignons of corded microphones for about $50. $50, you drop $200 on a wireless microphone, you're getting the McDonald's hamburger version of it, okay? The corded microphone on stage works just fine. None of us are up there running around like Chris Rock. We don't have these huge theaters. We're on small stages, nightclubs, taverns, neighborhood bars. Get the fundamentals right. You wouldn't believe how many places I've rolled into, like a casino. This is what really irritates me about these casinos too. They can never seem to find the person who's in charge of the technical shit. And so you get on stage and you notice that the spotlight is pointed right at your crotch. The audience can't see your face. The visual element is completely lost on the crowd. And when you're a performer, your facial expressions, your gestures, all that stuff is just as important as the actual words, as the way the jokes are written. Anyway, I got off on that rant there for a little bit. Hey, Sarah, Dennis, Day Peace, Brenda. Speaking of Brenda, come see me at the Country Inn Bar and Grill. That's going to be Friday, August 30th in Cedar Rapids, Nebraska. And I'll put my full show schedule up in the video description or in the comments below. Here's how to never, ever see a bad comedian. I don't care if you're already a comic. I don't care if you're going out to see comedy shows. Here's what you do. Here's the trick. It's a fail-safe trick as long as you have the right attitude. When you're out in the audience, just be supportive. Remember that a lot of times as a comedian, they're coming up with this shit. It's completely original, especially you go to some of these open mic situations or amateur nights, or you see the MC or the opening act get on. Even if it's a mainstream, nationally recognized headliner that you're going, a lot of times what we're doing, we're experimenting. We're coming up with shit spontaneously. We're out there, we're trying new material that we just wrote that way or that day on our way to the gig during an 8 or 9 or 10 hour drive when you've got nothing to do in the car other than sit there with your own thoughts and think about your material. That's one way that I come up with a lot of stuff. I do a lot of writing in my head in the car. I'll bust out the phone and I'll start dictating some notes to myself, and then later on try to work that into the show. Usually I just have a basic premise that I'm working with, and then I just try to fill in the blanks and flush it out right there live on stage in front of a real audience, where you've sort of got that pressure cooker situation that puts you in the creative death ground, where it's either sink or swim. You either come up with some funny shit right then and there, or you lose the crowd. But here, if you're not a comedian, keep in mind, listen, if you are a comedian, here's a lot of comedians will be in the crowd and they're watching other comics and they're thinking, they're evaluating it. They're analyzing the show as though it were them up on stage doing that. They're coming in with their creative critiques. Just let the environment take its desired effect. Just be in the moment. Be a good audience member. Don't be a comedy critic. If you're going to be a comedy critic, whether you're in show business or whether you're in the audience, you're just setting your to be in a critical frame, a criticizing frame of mind, instead of hanging back, relaxing, and enjoying the night. Even when you see a comedian who is up there tanking, like I did last Friday night, it's still funny. You're up there as a performer. You're supposed to be getting laughs, and you're not getting laughs. What is fucking funnier than that? You know what I'm saying? Just let the environment take its desired effect. Get on stage to have fun. Be in the audience to have fun, and just have fun no matter what happens. If you treat every comedian, no matter what level they are in the game, as though they are a superstar, you will never see a bad show ever again. You paid your money. Even if you got into the show for free, you're taking your time. I'll take my wife out, Mrs. Jaredog, Hot Karen, out to a comedy show here. I want to root on the new performers. I want to make sure that date night was well worth the money, the time, the effort of making it happen. And that's not going to happen if I'm sitting there as a comedian in a creative, critical state of mind with my arms crossed, like, oh, I could do better than they could. I probably could do better than they could in most cases. Keeping in mind, I've been at this shit since 1995. You know, I'm there to root on the other performers. I'm there to make sure that the people that I'm with at that table are having a good time. Even if the comedy is bad, even bad comedy can still be good comedy. Brenda, looking forward to the 30th, as am I. Alan Miller, Janes, Vegas. You know, see, this is a good example. Janesville, Wisconsin, affectionately known as Janes, Vegas. I've had some of the craziest, roughest, most out of control crowds ever. But it's always made for a memorable experience. You take whatever stuff they throw at you, you turn it around, it becomes a good story, it becomes a good premise, a good running gag, a good running theme throughout the rest of the night. People love it. If they're going to sit back and just be critical of what is going on stage, it's going to be practically impossible to make that connection with them in order to give them the good time that they're looking for. I'm one of those performers. I learned this a long time ago. I'm not up there to get laughs. Okay, this is going to sound a little weird. As a comedian, I'm not on stage to get laughs. I'm on stage to give a good show, to give a good time. So comedians that are watching this right now, try to dump that out of your vocabulary. I didn't get any laughs. I didn't get any laughs. I've heard this over and over and over again, especially from newbies, or even worse, these 30, 35 long year headliners, and their career hasn't gone where they want it to. Now they're all fucking bitter and they're calcified. And if they have a show that tanks, even these long-standing veterans of the game will start blaming the audience because they didn't get laughs. Dude, that was your fucking fault. You didn't give them a good time. Whether you killed or whether you tanked, just take responsibility for it. Hey, last night, the crowd was freaking awesome. I totally killed. It was worth the 15 years of scraping my ass, sleeping in the backseat of a car, rolling into places like Leesville, Louisiana, where there's 10 people in the crowd seated 50 fucking feet away from the stage, taking my lumps in that situation, AKA boot camp of comedy, learning on the streets, practicing your shit, finally getting in a situation where you've got a nice hot crowd and now you can deliver the goods. You know, at the same time, if you tank, take responsibility for that. Dude, I was out of the flow. It was my first time back in doing a show after a few weeks off. I might have been a little bit rusty. My timing might have been a little bit off. My facial expressions might have been a little bit off. The wording of my jokes might have been a little bit off. Who knows what the problem really was, but just take responsibility for it. I did not give them the good time that they were seeking and paying for. That said, if you're in the audience, you can always get a good time out of the comedians. That's just by allowing yourself to get into the atmosphere, let the environment take its desired effect. You sit there, you have a few drinks, and even if it sucks, it makes it more awkward not laughing. You know, like if I go to a club and I'm in the back and I'm hanging out with the comedians and we're watching a friend of ours on stage do a new bit that's not quite going over so well, that's actually our favorite part of the night. And it's a little fucked up the way comedians will laugh at other comedians who are bombing on stage. But quite frankly, it usually is the funniest part of the night, especially if, as a performer, they have the balls and the courage to call themselves out on it. You know, Jeremy Cartwright, never blame the audience. That is true. Never blame the audience. Now, I do want to add a little caveat to that. A lot of people will say there's no such thing as a bad crowd, only bad performers. Yeah, you don't want to rely on that crutch of blaming the crowd. You got to take responsibility for yourself. You didn't do what it took to make that connection. But I will say this. If you can give them credit for being a good crowd, You can give them credit for being a bad crowd. Trust me, there are bad crowds. I have faced them. They're unruly. You never had a fucking chance in hell to begin with when the bachelorette party rolls in and the whole night has to be all about them. And, their champagne cocktails and their obnoxious fucking behavior while, they're just being completely disruptive through the show. They were never there to appreciate and enjoy a comedy night to begin with. They were showing up just so they themselves could be the star of the night. That, I think, is a good and not all bachelorette parties are like this. But I think as comedians, we can relate to when that bachelorette party shows up and creates a disturbance and a commotion that does ruin it for everybody else. So they are bad audience members. They're definitely bad audience members. And there's some of these places I roll into where it's complete out of control. Usually that's a fault of the venue. That's usually a fault that's not being properly promoted and people don't know what they're getting themselves into. And they roll into their nightclub, tavern, or neighborhood bar just wanting to have a couple of cocktails. And here's some loudmouth jackass is now cursing on the microphone. It's almost like an ambush. That's not a good experience for either side of the stage, whether you're on stage or if you're out in the crowd. You don't want to hear that shit. You weren't there for that. At the same time as you're a comedian, you're just trying to get through the gig that you had booked that night. There are crowds that are not controlled. Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of times that's really the fault of the venue for not putting those crowd controls in place to begin with. But like I said, you don't want to use that as a crutch. You want to figure out at the end of the night, what could I have done? Even if it was capture their attention just for a couple of minutes during my half-hour set, what could I have done different? Always ask yourself that question. What could I have done different to make this a better time? And that's true even for the audience members. If you're sitting in the audience and it's more awkward if you don't laugh when the comedian is bombing. Trust me, that's when it gets really awkward. Just start laughing. Even if the comedian is tanking, that can still be funny to watch. Just allow yourself as an audience member to have a great time. Don't look for every little word that they use that might be offensive. Don't look for ways to pick apart the jokes. You don't take every single thing that the comedian says as exact literal truth. It's comedy. Allow the environment to take the desired effect. Treat every comedian that you see as though they are a superstar, and you will never see a bad comedian ever again. Ever. I said a lot. I did a lot of ranting and raving. I'm hopped up. I'm high energy. Drank 2 pots of coffee this morning, so I got a little bit extra caffeine flowing through the blood vessels. Hey, thank you guys for being here, everybody. Let me scroll through these comments real quick before I wrap it up. See if there's anything that I missed. Wow, a lot of people watching today. I really do appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same place, 4:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, or as close as possible, right here on Facebook for my daily live fake talk show, The 420 Report. It'll be Hump Day Happy Hour. I'll have a cocktail in my hand. I hope to see you here with a beer as well. And even if you're watching on the replay, hit the share button. Leave me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. And I'll let you know when the Jared All Comedy Roadshow is coming to your area soon. Gary Henry, don't start shouting out shit trying to help the show. Oh, yeah. All right. I was about to wrap it up, and now we got another comment here that I'm going to have to address. You're exactly right. Don't start shouting out shit trying to help the show. There are a lot of these audience members I see, it's like they're playing comedy karaoke or guess the punchline, and I'll be on stage working my way through the bit. I'm really rocking and rolling. I'm cranking it hard. I got the audience right there in the palm of my hand, working my way up to the big wow finish payoff punchline of the entire bit that makes everything I said before that was maybe slightly obscene or kind of offensive. Now it all circles back around to make perfect sense, and it adds to the flow of the show. And that's always when somebody will chime in with their guess the punchline, their distractions and their commotions, and then bombs away, baby. You got to start digging yourself out of the hole. At the same time, comedians, don't worry about the complainers and the bitchers and the whiners and the pissers and the moaners. Get up there, do your thing. I hear something else I hear, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Don't worry about it, Gary. It's cool. It's a good point.